Hello, hello, science teachers. How are we today? Welcome to this presentation. I am glad that you chose this group, the Coup route. Um, Sorry about the names if I haven't apologized enough. Filming these during Christmas, so I'm in the rhyming mood. So kind of an overview about what this one is. Actually, I'll share my screen, and I've got a nice uh, presentation that'll help show that for you guys. Let me just jump in. Hopefully you guys can still see me. And here we go. So what is Group the Coop? This is actually something I've started doing with different schools after we've started having our quarter tests come in, and the schools are looking for, okay, how do we use these? Excuse me. How do we set goals using all that data? And so I was able to work with a few schools to develop this, but I haven't really pushed it out to everybody. So this is a really good option. I've gotten some good feedback from teachers who have started using it. I haven't called it Group the Coop, just ignore the name. But so we're going to utilize quarterly assessment data. And let's say your data didn't come in and it doesn't help with this, then you need to be providing, here's some other data tool or aspect that I can pull from that I'll be choosing students. I'm just going to kind of use Illuminate for the remainder of this video, but you can pull from other assessments if you've got those made. And what we're going to do is, this isn't for every student, not now, but what you're going to do is look at your data, and we're going to start to look at specific students that we can create a group. We're looking from 10 to 15 students. And we're going to look at students that are testing in a grade or a band or a percentage that's below where you think they should be. And we'll show you some examples of that. But let's say a kid's testing below basic, and you're like, oh, I know they can do better than that. And they're here, they're present. Like, I feel like we can move them up. And so then we'll have our students and we'll be able to track their growth, set goals with those students to help them achieve better on the next quarter assessment or whatever assessment you're utilizing for this. And so this really helps give you some tools and resources and kind of a structure to do that. And we're keeping it to 10 to 15 students because what I want to do is develop the skills and systems so that way this becomes a natural practice. Then the next quarter, maybe we can do 20 students. And then you keep expanding that until all of a sudden it's like, I can do this with all of my students. But if we try to start with all of our students, we're just going to run out of time and energy because this is adding a slight extra layer of work that both the student and you need to do for them to reach the goals. So throughout this lesson, here's our objectives. We're going to select a group of students, practice selecting your students. I'm going to show you how to select students, and then we're going to prepare for quarter three. There'll be a deliverable on Canvas that you guys will need to do to show your completion. It's not anything overly complicated, but that'll be kind of the last part of it. So I'm going to kind of walk you through what I've been teaching people. All the documents and materials that I'm sharing with you are totally adaptable. If you like a different format, you want to add something, change something, rename it, totally fine. You guys have access to download those. You'll have, those are linked in Canvas. And if you need something emailed to you, just reach out. But we're going to start by learning the recommended method of selecting your students and review the organizational documents. Then we're going to move into kind of the practice where you can use some previous data. We're going to practice. We're not going to do the full 10 to 15 in the practice. We're going to have you pick 3 students and kind of like, how would I set a goal for them? Thinking about last quarter. And then we're going to, okay, we practiced it. Now we're going to prepare. We don't have the data yet, so we're going to do the test here when we come back. But I'm going to prepare myself for, okay, what's it going to take once we have that data? How am I going to go about doing this? So we'll have a little bit of time to prepare. So hopefully by the end of this, you got the practice and you are ready to go. After the testing is completed, you can start this and let me know how it goes for you this quarter. Okay, why should I do this? I might have mentioned some of this, but this process is going to allow you to select students that you believe you can make successful improvements. This takes out the students who have low attendance or are kind of maxed out at their learning, those sorts of things. It takes those out. You get to choose the students. And so we should be able to pick a group of students where the majority of them do reach their goal. So that's why I like to push this. encourage you to collaborate the student, because as you'll see, we're not just going to set this goal for a student and then not tell them about it. We're bringing them in. So we're going to collaborate with them. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to build these systems and routines into our teaching practice so that this becomes just natural moving forward as we continue teaching. Okay, that's it on terms of our presentation slides. I'm going to jump right over first to looking at some data. Okay, this is just from Illuminate, and I just pulled up chemistry as an example, just because I had a good spread here. You'll notice that part of my screen is blurred. I added that in just to protect the student's privacy, since this is up on YouTube. And so what you'll see here over on the right-hand side, which is what I'm going to focus on, although you can do this with percentages, is, okay, this is color-coded. I can easily see where these students fell. And so, boom, here's my data. I got it. How am I going to select my 10 to 15 students? I suggest that the majority of those 10 to 15 students first come from the below basic category. So I'm going to pick 7, 8, or 9 students who fell below basic, because they're in failing mode right now, and we need to pick them up. But I don't just want to focus on that bottom end of the testing spectrum. I want to look at, hey, these students here, they did okay. But you know what? I think they could have done better. I bet they could have gotten up in the 75, 80% range. So I'm going to choose some middle ground students that I can think I can push up into like a proficient area. And then maybe I want to pick 1 or 2 students who maybe in the green or the yellow, like, okay, they did good, but I think they could be a student, a student who does highly advanced, something like that. So we do want to address students at all areas, with the bulk of them being down here, because we want to bring up the bottom as much as we can without ignoring the other kids. So that's kind of how I select the students. So I gave you a rough number. So maybe 7 to 8 students below basic, 3 or 4 from here, and then 1 or 2 kind of in that upper category. Just kind of give it a good spread. But that's kind of how I view that. It also helps your teaching practice, that you're not just trying to help the students who are struggling to come up, but now you got to think about this student. How am I going to provide some other engaging material that really pushes them to strive for more, you know? So that's kind of helps your creativity. Okay, so I've got my students selected. How am I keeping track of this, right? Boom, introducing the student growth tracker. This is nothing special, so feel free to find something better or modify this to meet your needs. But what this is going to do is help you to keep track of, here are my students, here's where their current score was, and here's where I want to move them into. So that first 3 is like, all right, that's easy. Here are my students, the scores, where do I want them to move to? And that's going to be shared with the students, not this document. You're going to share with the student, hey, here's where you were, here's where I want you to be. But you'll notice it doesn't end there. It's not, oh, I set a goal for them, now I'm just done, and I'll check in later. Now look, we've got, what's my evidence of my student progressing? And then a mid-progress check, a couple bit more of evidence. I'm not saying you have to do 5 and all this stuff, but it gives you space for like, all right, I can track my student. I'm going to have intervals where I'm checking in with them. And then what are my results? Do my results hit the target? Are they above the target? How does that look? And so these evidence parts really makes you stop and think about your planning. Okay, what are my formative assessments and other assessments I'm going to have from now moving forward that gives me an accurate presentation? Are they tracking? So I like the idea of what one of my chemistry teachers in the district does. She looks at the quarter assessment that is going to be coming up. She's got all those questions. And so she's developing not only her lessons to meet those questions, but she actually takes the questions, modifies them so they're not going to look familiar to students, but it is still asking for the same skill or knowledge. And she's using those as do nows and exit tickets. So she's going to have daily evidence of the specific type of knowledge students are going to be tested on at the end to track, are the students learning what they need to? And so she can get real-time data to cover it in class. She'll have an exit ticket so she knows if she needs to loop back with students. So she's doing that with all students, but now maybe she only needs to focus on these 10 to 15 students to make sure that their results are showing evidence of growth. So I really like that idea of, I've said at the start of the year, we don't want to teach to the test. That is, here's your test. look at the questions, memorize the answers. That's teaching to the test. Teaching towards the test, though, is making sure students are familiar with the language, seeing the questions, the types of questions, the same content that they're going to be exposed to. So that's what this is for. This is a U document for keeping track as you move forward. I've also shared this document with vice principals. So some of your vice principals may have this, and we went through and practiced with them, and they really like this. So they'll be familiar with how this should be utilized. They got to do some practice with it. So, okay, now for the goal setting sheet. Okay, so I told you at the start, okay, we're going to select our students. We know what their score is. We know where we want them to go. We're going to think about how do we track their progress throughout this quarter to hopefully on the next quarter assessment, they're performing better. How am I setting that goal with that student? Here's another document, and this is actually 2 documents. So I got a couple options for you. But if you want to create your own or find a different one, totally fine. I just found these were very useful. There's 2 different goal setting sheets. This one is sort of from the 4 Principles of Execution book the district gave you. It's the I want to get from X to Y and by when and how. So all that stuff, I mean, that was in the last document, like, you know, how to set that goal, your current score, what score you want to be, how we're going to get there, what's our performance checks. So that one's a pretty good one. And these are front and back. So you'll have that side and this side. The other goal setting sheet is the SMART goal. So how do I set a SMART goal with the student that is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, or time-based? I'm not telling you to do both of these. I'm saying when you get this, you print it out, and now you have 2 options, and I want you to sit down with the student and really walk them through. Maybe I'm going to fill out part of this, like, hey, here was your score. Here's where I want you to be. Here are my thoughts for how you're going to get there, but invite them into the conversation and be like, hey, what is creating that barrier that's keeping you from reaching your goals? And now we're having a dialogue. We're talking about the obstacles. What are the solutions? What is it on me that I can do to be helping? And what is it on you, the student, that's going to be helping? So now the student's not in the dark. They know that you're monitoring them. They know that you think they can do better. And now they're going to have that sheet. And maybe whenever you do, let's go jump back to here. Maybe when you do a mid-quarter progress check, you're going to sit down with those students again. Hey, here's the goal you set. Here's my evidence. I think you're on track. I don't think you're on track. Oh, you're killing it. You're way above track. And so that's what that mid-progress check should be, is you coming back with the student, really sitting down, looking at, hey, here's when our next test is, and kind of doing that. So I hope you guys can utilize both of these documents or pull in some of your own. If you make any awesome modifications, I'd love to see it for finding those students, selecting what's my goal for them, sitting down with the student, sharing that goal for them, and planning out what is the evidence that's going to show progress. Okay, so let's jump back to our objectives. Let's take a look. What objectives have we met? All right, I've shown you how to select a group of students using Illuminate data. Again, if you, for some reason, are at a school that's not using that data, find some other process by which you can select data. Practice selecting students. We need to do that and then prepare for quarter 3. So here's what I'd like for you to do. I'll actually try to finish this video and give you time to work on it. I want you now to use some of your old Illuminate data and just kind of pick 3 students. What 3 students would you have picked from there? What's the practice writing out a goal sheet for them, or the parts that you can do? And then what does that look like when you've helped them reach the goal? What were some of the evidence that you could have collected along the way? And if you're thinking back to your past quarter and you're like, oh, I wouldn't have any evidence. Now we start thinking, okay, I need to include some evidence for the upcoming quarter. Okay. And as I wrap up this video, there's going to be instructions back on Canvas for you to wrap up to prepare for quarter 3. Obviously, we don't have the test data yet, so we can't pick our students, but I'll have a few questions and prompts, ask you to submit a couple things to help you kind of prepare yourself for moving into quarter 3. When we have that data, now I'm able to establish, here are the students, here's my progress checks, here's people who will keep me accountable. I have a coach, I have an admin. I'm going to reach out to Cast the Line, people who are going to check in with me. Hey, how's that goal going? To bring up your students. And then I can't wait until the end of quarter 3 to hear, hey, how many of our students did we move up? And then we're going to do it again for quarter 4. Okay, that is all that I got for us today. Hopefully that didn't run too long. I don't have a timer on here, but I'm sure we'll be fine. And thank you for choosing this learning pathway. Maybe in the future you're interested in one of the other ones. I'll talk to you guys later. Actually, I'll talk to you guys real soon. See you in the next video.